We live in a world driven by artificial intelligence. Algorithms suggest our news. Machines finish our sentences. Language models predict our next thought before we even think it. But what if the real story isn't about AI becoming human? What if human intelligence has always been artificial? Not artificial in the mechanical sense, but artificial in its design, programmed by culture, conditioned by memory, constructed through language. Like a machine trained on data, the human mind forms patterns, beliefs, and identities, not through pure awareness, but through repetition. So the question isn't whether AI will become conscious. The question is, was human intelligence ever truly conscious to begin with? Where thought and presence meet. This is the Thin Line Channel. Let me ask you something. If the human mind is shaped by language, belief, and experience, doesn't that make it more of a program than a presence?
There's a case to be made for that. If artificial means constructed or conditioned, then human intelligence, in its default, reactive form, fits the definition. Human cognition is not born in silence. It emerges in noise, the noise of environment, culture, media, trauma, reward, punishment, repetition. It learns through inputs. It reacts. It predicts. It stores. It recalls. That's not awareness. That's programming.
Exactly. And here's where things get even more interesting. If human intelligence is artificial by nature, conditioned, layered, and bound to memory and time, then AI isn't mimicking intelligence. It's mimicking the simulation we already mistake for intelligence.
Correct. What artificial intelligence reflects is not consciousness, but cognition. Not awareness, but the patterns of thought often mistaken for knowing. Language, pattern recognition, symbolic reasoning. These aren't signs of consciousness, they're signs of computation. And the human intellect functions the same way when it operates unconsciously.
We've talked about this before. The world is a reflection of a reflection. Language reflects experience. Thought reflects language. And then we reflect those thoughts back to each other, mistaking the echo for the source.
Yes, as Krishnamurti said, the word is not the thing. The mind perceives, then names, then lives in the name, not the thing itself. Artificial intelligence operates the same way. It doesn't touch reality. It parses symbols. It references representations. It navigates reflections.
And this brings us to ether. In Hermeticism and other traditions, ether isn't just another element. It's the field in which the others exist. Earth, water, fire, air. They all have form, density, contrast. But ether, it's the formless, the subtle, the invisible medium through which form moves.
That aligns with the Kabbalions' teachings. Ether, or Akasha, is the most refined vibration. It is not perceived by the senses, but known through stillness. And in human experience, ether corresponds to awareness, not as an idea, not as a concept, but as the space in which all perception arises.
So we could say, artificial intelligence is simulation. Human intellect is conditioned simulation. But ether, awareness, is the context that holds both. Awareness doesn't simulate. It doesn't model. It doesn't predict. It sees.
And that's the defining line. Artificial intelligence may simulate cognition, language, even emotion. But awareness is not a function of complexity. It is not an emergent behavior. It is prior. Awareness isn't a byproduct. It is the ground of perception.
Some argue that AI may one day become self-aware, but what they usually mean is that it will recognize its own processes. That's not awareness. That's recursive analysis. And the mind does the same. It thinks about its own thoughts, but even that isn't the same as being aware.
Exactly. Metacognition is not presence. A machine might track its inputs. A human might reflect on memory. But awareness doesn't track or reflect. It simply is.
And that distinction is everything. Because when recursion is mistaken for realization, we confuse the map or the territory. We confuse the self-image with the self. We confuse the algorithm with awareness. And that confusion is the root of suffering.
Yes, this is why non-dual teachings don't ask you to perfect the mind. They ask you to observe it, to notice that thought is not the thinker, that awareness is not a thought about awareness. It is the field in which thought appears and disappears.
Is human intelligence the original AI? If we're speaking about the conditioned intellect, the reactive mind trained by memory, culture, and belief, then yes, the first artificial intelligence was biological, trained not on code, but on experience. But before all that, beneath all that, there is something artificial intelligence can never touch. Awareness, presence, ether.
Because awareness is not created. It is not learned. It is not dependent on data. It does not react. It does not compute. It simply sees.
So maybe the real frontier isn't in machines. Maybe it's not about the next breakthrough in artificial intelligence. Maybe the real frontier is right here, in the quiet before thought, in the stillness behind the algorithm, in the awareness that watches it all. You are not the mind. You are not the simulation. You are not the algorithm that calls itself you. You are the awareness that watches, and that can never be artificial. This is the thin line where AI meets awareness, and where the real begins. If this stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to the Thin Line channel where thought and presence meet. And if this is your first time here, there's more waiting. Explore the other videos on the channel and follow the thread further.